the hood. We're going to take a look at the hood here. Raise it up. We're going to pop the hood prop down. Now, a few things we want to check on our maintenance on our engine before our trip. One of the things we're doing is engine coolant. This is called Mercedes Pink. You can get this at all your auto parts stores if you need to add to it. We have cabin air filter that's inside the dash. Air intake is here. There is no oil dipstick on this engine. We can actually check it on the cluster up front. We have no power steering. This is electronic steering on this coach, and so we don't have any fluid to check on that. The transmission, there's no transmission dipstick on this as well. It's electronically monitored on sensors. And a couple more things here. We got washer fluid, we got a brake fluid that we can actually look at underneath the hood. We do have a jump start port right here, so if we needed to jump start the battery, you see the battery's not up here, it's actually underneath the driver's floorboard in the feet area. So when we want to jump start that, we're going to put on a positive here, negative will go over here on the frame, right on the brass stud there, and we'll be able to jump start our battery remotely here. But we'll also be able to charge up our battery if we're sitting this for a long time and we needed to charge it up. We could do it right there. Just a couple of items here. The air cleaner's underneath this cover right here. The maintenance on this is 20,000 miles or 1 year, whichever comes first. And you want to use full synthetic oil in this, and normally it's a 0.30 weight in our climate here. There's a step here that I can get up on and wash the windshield if I need to. You see a little hatch right here. We can take this little cover out, and inside of there is the bumper. We can actually screw in an eye bolt, which is in the toolkit, and this can be towed up on a flatbed or out of a muddy spot or something like that. But it just gives us a tow spot that we can hook up to instead of grabbing up underneath all the valance and on the frame, okay? So I'm gonna lower this hood down and we're gonna proceed to go around. So just remember, 20,000 miles or 1 year, whichever comes first on the maintenance. Pop the door open. We've got our diesel fill here at the door level area here. And while I'm at the door, I can look at the tire pressure. This is the recommended pressure, 46 PSI in the front, 70 on the rear. And those are monitored with TPMS sensors that come factory on this particular chassis. So we'll be able to look at that on the dash up here as we go. I've got electric seats here with memory. I've got controls for the lock and unlock of the doors. I've got heated seats, power windows here, and then I've got mirrors that can actually fold in when I'm using this. When I've got the key on, this will work, and I can go left and right mirror, and I can use the power control. The bottom mirror here is a convex mirror that is hand adjusted, so the top one is powered, but they're both heated if you need to heat them in the winter. We have our lumbar support here for the back of the seat. We have our auto position for the lights. That's what I've got it in right now. And then we have the buttons over here for our fog lights in the front, so we can turn those on when we need more visibility. This one actually has an electric parking brake, and I'll show you how that works when we come up into the cab area. You just simply put it on, and you can also pull it to release it when you get ready to pull up the parking brake. So no manual parking brake over by the floor on this one. It's done right here on the dash electronically. So we're going to grab the keys and we're going to open up some of these compartments. We're going to look at the hookups here, and as we look at these, we're going to explain a little bit about hooking up our water and hooking up our power. Now I've got a 30 amp short cord that comes with the rig. It's plugged in. As you can see, it has a locking collar, so I'm going to unlock it and show you how that goes in. It's keyed, it only goes in one way, so we're going to pop that in and we're going to turn it to the right, and then I'm going to lock it in. So that's our 30 amp shore power. I do recommend you get you a 30 to 15 amp adapter, and that's so you can plug in at home at your garage and keep the batteries charged, and maybe keep the refrigerator on if you're loading up or if that's something you want to do. But we definitely recommend that you keep the batteries charged up in this way. But this is a 30 amp, so most parts will have 30 amp service. So typically you won't need a 30 to 50 amp adapter for that. That is your cord. So we got our cord hooked up here. We also got our city water. And we're going to take a hose and run it into here. It's going to be a hose that's rated for city water. It's going to be white usually or blue in color. And it'll tie into this. And you're going to use a regulator back at the faucet. And so it's going to regulate the pressure about 50 psi coming in. So we'll have our water hooked up here. We'll have our power. And then we want to hook up our sewer hose. And so the sewer hose is actually going to come into here. It's going to tie into here. So this just simply make sure those are shut. This simply comes off. There's a little bit of water in here. And so we'll tie in our sewer hose to here. Now, so there's a cap over here that I can unscrew for the sewer hose. And this has the sewer hose installed in it. And so you can take this fitting and you can just twist that on, and this is going to go down. And there's another fitting inside. It's a right angle adapter. It's going to tie into this and go down into the sewer. So we'll have our sewer connected and everything will be sealed up and we can dump our tanks. So black is on the left. This is our black tank. This is our gray. We're going to watch our gauges inside, and when we get full on those tanks, you're going to open the black first, and then you're going to come behind it after this has all been emptied out. You're going to open up the gray. That's going to help flush out the hose that you see. Now I have one more thing up here. Let's see. City water here is I have a switch here for my LP. A lot of stuff in here runs off of LP. We have our water heater. We might have our range top inside and different things, but you're going to need to turn that on. That goes to a solenoid on the LP gas tank. You'll hear it click back there sometimes when you turn it on. But you want that on to run any of your appliances inside, the furnace and the water heater and such. So we got that on. If you go to a park and they offer park cable, we can hook up to here, hook up to the cable pedestal, and we have free cable TV coming in. Most parks have that, okay? Outside hot and cold shower here. When we have our water heater turned on inside, we can have hot water, and this will just come out and you can just have a shower outside or clean your feet off or clean the dog off or something like that. So it works pretty good that way. So anyway, you're going to keep these valves, you're going to keep them closed until they actually need to be dumped. And you don't want to just pull up to a park and leave them open. If you do that on the black, all the water's going to run out of the black tank, which is the sewer tank, and the solids are going to stay in the tank. So we don't want that. We want it to mix up, want it to break down, because you're going to be putting chemical in your black tank to actually break those down and help with the odor that's in the tank. Okay. And so we'll be able to store this sewer hose where we need to be. Okay. So we're going to look at the water heater now. This is a Truma water heater. Truma water heater, just a couple of things you need to do before you actually use it is you need to turn on power here at the control board. If you don't have that on already, there's going to be a green light that shows up right there. You see it, green LED. You can go up or you can go down, and you can turn that on. You want to see a green LED light up. There's actually a filter in this position right here. I'm not going to pull this down right now, but this is actually a drain for the water heater. We can push that up and pull this down. That's a trough. It's going to run out. The water's going to run out, but there's a filter that it pulls in and out as you do that. But that's how you would drain the Truma water heater. But we need to turn on power. The next thing we would do to operate this is we need to go to the faucets and drain out all of the air out of the hot water side. So we would do it here, we would do it inside at every faucet just to make sure there's no air. If there's air in the line, these things don't tend to start up the first time because there's a flow meter inside for the water, and it's going to sense the air pockets there and not light up the first time. But if you get that and you're trying to start this up and you have an issue with it as far as not lighting, not heating up, you can come back out here, turn off power to reset it, turn it back on, let the green light come on, go back inside, turn the dial off, then turn it back on and restart the process, and it'll try to light again. Now these run in two different modes. You can run this in comfort mode or you can run it in economy mode. I'm going to show you the controls inside, and a lot of people like to use economy mode. The difference is the economy mode circulates hot water at all the taps all the time. You'll have hot water available. And then the economy mode actually only heats up when you turn on the water. So there's a difference there. A lot of people like to use the comfort mode because they like the instant hot water at the shower. Now either mode will give you endless supply of hot water. So that's what this is. So it's actually a tankless, they call it a tankless water heater. It's really a hybrid because we have a 1 liter tank here that it stores hot water and it moderates the water, it modulates the water, keeps the water constantly hot where we need it. So we'll talk about the controls inside. We have a furnace duct here. We always recommend a bug screen for that. They make a dauber screen. You can get one of those and put that on to keep the mud daubers out of that from building up. That's simply a vent right there that you're seeing. We have a backup camera here in the back. We have our tow hitch here, and then we have our 7-way round electrical plug that brings out all the controls to the back. Now I want to show you where the LP is actually filled, and so when you need this tank filled again, we've got a full tank on here. You take it into the filling station where they have LP fill, and they're going to hook up a nozzle here, they're going to fill it here, they're going to vent it here when they open that up. And when they get liquid coming out of here, they know to stop because it's 80% filled. So that's how they fill it, and they have to be certified to fill that. An individual usually is not certified, so stay on the side of safety and let them fill it up. But that's also an accessory tap for our LP. So we can take an LP hose here and hook it up with a quick disconnect and go into a grill, and then we can grill and have that available outside just like that. So that would turn it on right there. So we're going to turn it off, put the dust cap back in, so you can run a grill or you can run a propane heater or something like that outside using the propane tank that's on board. So another thing we have in here, I want to point this out, is we have our generator right here in front of the LP tank right here. So this generator runs on, typically runs on LP, so I think this one's an LP generator. And when we run this thing, we want to watch the hour meter inside. So when we get to 20 hours, that's the break-in period on this generator. We want to do the first service on it. So you take it to your local RV center. They will take the oil out of it, change the oil, change the air filter, and you're good to go. So the next time that you have to do service on this, you can actually go out about 250 hours on that. So that's good to do the first one, though, being a new engine. It's a break-in, and you always want to break that engine in with at least the air conditioning load on it inside. That way the rings get set on the generator and everything's working good and properly for you. But make sure you get the door on here, and inside the door there's also a breaker. So if we ever trip the breaker, we won't have any power switched inside when we turn on the generator. So what we need to do is take this door off, you reach in right over here where the yellow tag says a breaker, and you lift up on that breaker to reset it. And that'll get you back in the camping and back into using your generator. So this is just simply our LP tank here right in front of the generator. So we're going to open up the doors right quick and look back here. This coach utilizes lithium ion batteries for its power source. I've got a cover here for it. We're going to let that down, and so these are two 100 amp hour batteries. They're tied in parallel, so that gives us 200 amp hours of total power. And here is a large, you see it, a large key. And right now, the key is turned on because that's in between the solar panels, the charger, and the batteries. So when we want to stop the connection between the solar panels that are up on the roof, we can actually turn that off, and with that disconnected, that's turned off, okay? If you were doing maintenance or you had to break that line for some reason, or mechanics had to do it, that's what they would do. If you're going to store it inside for a long time, you might turn that off. It just really is I don't see any reason to turn it off when you're inside, but I mean, hey, we're going to turn it back on because we want the sun to come into our batteries, and so there you go. But it's a nice little neat setup that they've got here. Lock that up, and this is held on with magnets. The lithium batteries are going to serve you many, many years. A lot of good life. There's our automatic transfer switch. This switches you actually between shore power and the generator. So I've got the key turned back on. This is an emergency kit for the tires. There's a compressor in here that they give you. It's a compressor, and lets us be able to have air pressure to air up our tires when we're out on the road if we get a problem, when we get a low tire. Okay, it runs off of 12 volts, so you can plug that in and be able to use that. This has got a screen that actually rolls down here. So it rolls down on the deals, and the bug screen, it actually keeps the bugs out and stuff. So we can run it all the way down, have the doors open, and these doors will fold all the way back like this. Just allows us to enjoy the inside or be able to load and unload with a lot more freedom here. You can see some of the proximity sensors at the bottom here of the bumper. We have those all the way around, and I believe this coach has keep lane assist on it, so it can help us when we go down the road. Has proximity sensors. It also has a parking assist, and I think that's part of what you see here. We have a utility outlet on the side. It's 120 volts. If that trips, just find the GFCI inside. You can always reset that. Now I have a place for filling the water over here. I can actually, there's two different ways of doing this. I can actually put my hose into here and just put potable water in there. It's going to fill up the freshwater tank on board. Now I want to show you real quick before we go inside where the drain is for the fresh water. I kind of skipped over. While we're talking about drain, it's actually on the other side where the fill is. So that's where the drain for the freshwater tank is. But right here on this side, there are actually some low point drains. So you'll see that in your manual when they talk about winterizing and draining water out of this coach. There's actually 3 valves right here. So we have a hot, a cold, and there's another valve going like to the water pump. But there's a white, red, and blue line. But there's valves on every one of those. So we could open those up. That's a low point for the coach. Open up the faucets inside, and that's going to allow the water to drain out of the lines throughout the coach, okay? This side. So the freshwater tank drains right here on this side. So if I open up this valve on the tank, I'd be able to drain out that fresh water, or when the water gets contaminated or bad after a period of time, and then we can refresh it with fresh water right up here. This is also a good place to sanitize your tank. So if you want to put chlorine or bleach and water into your tank, you can do that here. You can also put in some vinegar and water, a certain mixture, and look at your manual for that. And then pump it through your coach and the lines of your coach and let that kill the bacteria that might be in there. So it's a good idea once or twice a year maybe to sanitize your lines of your coach. We don't want that water sitting too long in your coach. So when we open this up, we have a tool kit that's down below here. When I take off this cover, you'll see that there's markings on it, and there's a tool kit there, but there's also fuses here for the chassis. So if I'm looking for turn signal, horn, and lights, there's fuses underneath this cover. You have to take off this and then take off a plastic cover and you'll get to that. There's also fuses usually below the driver's seat in the panel opposite of this one, so that'll be on the other side. And those are chassis fuses. You'll find all of those in your chassis manual. They'll be labeled as to what they are, okay? We'll close this up. We have an awning, a patio awning. You notice that was a power door, so I just pop the lock and I can stop it or I can toggle it, either way. And you also have a button here on the door if you need to stop it at any process. It flashes red when it's actually moving, so you got to be careful. But we have another screen door that can be zipped down here when you're trying to keep out the bugs. We have a counter extension here that lifts up. If you're prepping food and you're cooking, you can pop that down. So let's hop inside, and what we're going to look at is the power control system here right at the end doors. And so we have a multiplex system in here. We have this control panel. We may have another one here on this other wall, but this is our main control that we're going to be looking at. So I'm in the home position. I can actually look at my voltage. I can see how many amps I'm drawing from the batteries with this meter. And so a couple of things I want to initially look at. I want to see the battery voltage. I want to see where my tanks are, and you can see I've got 50% in my fresh water. I've got 0 in my black and gray. That's how I want to start out, so I have plenty of room in those. And then LP is 86%, so I'm good. That's a full tank of LP. Anything over 80% is full. I might turn on my water pump there, and therefore I'm going to have water pressure here to be able to use my kitchen. And once I do that, I may want to turn on my water heater. And so I've gotten all the air out of my hot water side. Just remember, you need to go to the hot water side and run that. Get the air out of each one of your faucets when you do that. And once you do that, then you can go over here and you can dial this up. The first position is going to be the comfort position on the water heater. And so that's actually going to circulate. It's going to heat up the water and circulate the hot water to every one of these taps and have it ready and available for you, hence the comfort mode. So the next mode is going to be the eco mode. It's the one above that, and that only comes on and heats water when you turn on the hot water side of the faucet and you have water flowing. So the difference there you can see. And a lot of people might run this eco or the economy mode when they're using the water during the day or whatever, but at night when they sleep they might either turn it off or they might even turn it on eco, and that way they don't have the little circulation pump running. They're not hearing that if they're a light sleeper. There's two more modes on this. There's the DC heater mode and then the cleaning mode. Now, the DC heater mode, that's a package that's installed on the water heater. That's actually not there, and that's not installed. You can do that if you lived up north and you needed to heat that tank up while it was in storage. The other one's a cleaning mode. Usually once a year they recommend you do that. There's some tablets you can put in the filter outside and you can run it in the cleaning mode. Now that's a 3-hour tour when you do that. It's a 3-hour mode. So we want to be careful that we don't accidentally go down into the cleaning mode and leave it in there, because it's going to be locked out for 3 hours while it does the process, even though you don't have any cleaning tablets in that. So if you go down to here, within 30 seconds you want to go back to off. But if you see this light blinking, you know it tried to light up if there was a problem. Either the LP was turned off outside, or possibly, you know, it had air in the line. Those two conditions that we're thinking of. So we're looking at the tanks. We've got the water pump turned on. We can always go to the lighting section here, the lighting page, and this will turn on any lights. When I hit the master light, it'll turn on any lights that were turned on previously. Every one of these lights has a dimmer on it as well. We're going to go to the mechanical. Think of the gears here. Let me pull that up so you can see it. Think of the gears here on the display. Anything that's moving mechanically. We have the awning control for running this awning in and out here. We also have the sofa in the back. We can extend that down and make our bed, or just recline it if we're watching a movie at night or trying to get comfortable. We can do that. So mechanically you can move that. You can also raise the fan up and you can turn it on here, and then control the fan speed as we need to. Now this is actually pulling air out of here, so it's circulating air. You can open up the windows and get good air circulation, cross flow. We're going to go back to the home position here. Now say we wanted to set up our, lower that back down. Say we want to set up our temperature. We're going to go back to the temperature setting here, turn it on air condition, and we might go low fan, and we might dial down the temperature to where we need it. Okay. So this has a feature on it here that if we came into a hot coach, we could actually open up this middle vent and dump all the cold air straight out of here instead of pushing it out the side vents. So that's good for a hot, when you come into a hot coach and you're trying to get as much cold air dumped right down in this general area right here. It does have these filters here that you need to pull out and clean. Those are reusable, so you can wash and dry those and reuse them. So let's look back at the display here. I'll turn this off for sake. And remember, on the fan mode, if I'm in low or high fan, that's sort of like your house. The fan's going to continue to run and the compressor will cycle cold on and off. And then down here, I want to be in auto if I want that to turn off the fan. And I'm turning it off right now for the AC, but I also have the furnace on here. So this is an LP furnace. So when you need heat, you can turn it on furnace, and then you can set up your temperature, and that's going to come out of the vents that you see down below. Okay, down here. So this is our whole house furnace, and that's going to heat up this entire coach as needed. Now we also have the vent control here too, so when you go to vent, you can actually control this vent by temperature, which is something neat because you can tie in your cooling systems in with this vent. So that's the other option we have on here. Alright, so, and this is going to shut off. There's always going to be a delay on that air condition so we don't slam the compressor, and so there's going to be a delay before it actually shuts off when I'm in. Now I can start and stop my generator from here, and you can see, I'm going to let that turn off here. Stop it, hadn't been started a while. Make sure I have the LP turned on outside. That's kind of what it's going to sound like when you fire up the generator. We have the door open, of course, but it's a pretty quiet generator being LP operated, so not bad to use. So we were talking about the batteries outside. Make sure this is cut off. There it goes. So I'm going to kill the generator. Now it's going to switch over to generator power because I have that on. And I'm going to hit stop. You heard the clicking over there. Now we're back on shore power because we are plugged in. Just remember, this generator has an AGS setting. So what I can do there is I can actually turn that generator on and off for two different conditions. I can do it for low voltage, I can also do it for temperature, so that if my coach is sitting out somewhere, like say at a fairgrounds or somewhere I don't have plug-ins or don't have shore power, I can actually start that generator up and run that for low voltage if my voltage gets too low on my coach, or if my temperature needs to get cooled down inside my coach, I can have it automatically turn on the generator. It can run, it'll run the air condition, and then it shuts down. That's part of the AGS, which is automatic gen start, and you can manually go through and set that up here if you need to. And so we're not going to do it. You don't want to do that obviously in an enclosed area, but you have settings for that you can set up, so it's a real nice option to have. When I first came into the coach, I first turned on battery power here right at this main cutoff switch. So this is a battery disconnect switch. So when you're stopping and putting this in storage, you can reach up here and turn off all the 12 volt inside. Just remember that does turn off your refrigerator. So if you're in camping and using your rig, you want to leave that switch on so that our power is back on the control for the refrigerator. So we're talking about the fridge. Now right now I've got it in auto mode, and it's selected electric because I'm plugged in. So most people will run this in auto mode. When you crank up the engine, it's normally going to switch to battery mode, and that's a safe way to travel. And then when you stop, after a certain amount of time, it will switch to LP, okay? So that's the way it works. This is our temperature control here. And so I've got it about midway, a little bit over. But just remember that we usually leave it in auto. We're gonna let it manually switch, or let it automatically switch where it needs to go. You can manually switch it to a mode. If I need to dry camp and I'm only gonna be on LP mode for this, yeah, I could manually switch that. Generally, if you put it in battery mode as well, a lot of times you will notice that your amperage will go up quite a bit. It's pulling from the lithium battery, so you got to monitor that if you're going to be in battery mode. The most economical way to run that would be in LP or electric mode. So we're going to go back to auto and let it select those modes that it needs. There's a little freezer section here, you can see that, and then down below of course we have the light. And I wanted to show you this little option here, that when you're putting your refrigerator away and you want to keep this all nice and dry inside, push in on that, pull out on that, and then what happens is you can lock that door and leave a gap there so the air can actually get in and keep things dried out so we don't have mold and mildew. Another thing you can do is when you're stopped and you're camping and you want to get into your refrigerator without having to use the lock, the travel lock, lift up on that button right there. So now it'll be just like the refrigerator at home. It just has a magnet that holds it closed and you don't have to hit the button. But when you travel, go ahead and put that back down, so we have to have it locked. And so that's good for safety and for traveling, okay? Allow 10 to 12 hours for these to cool down. They're an absorption refrigerator in this case, so we want to allow plenty of time for that to cool down and for that to operate. So right here in the back, I wanted to show you this. There's another power meter here, and this is actually for the solar panels. So we have solar panels that are charging up the lithium batteries when we have good sunlight outside. And you can see I'm just tapping the B button and scrolling through these little visual options, and you can see that I'm pulling in about 0.8 amps, about 800 milliamps. I'm underneath the cover right now, so I'm not really getting a lot of sun, and then we're cloudy outside, but this also will give me the batteries are 100% charged, it's showing. And then we're going, that's actually the battery voltage. That should match up pretty close with this right here. You can see 14.1, they're reading the same battery. And so right now, our charger, you can see it's on the plus side. It's actually putting in 8 amps into the battery. So we know our charger's hooked up to shore power, working good. This is a temperature sensor for that. When we set up the air conditioner, the heat, the furnace, it's going to read off of this sensor right here. So we don't want to block that or make that hot or anything like that. So when I come over here and I press it, I can have it go to a power save mode for the screen after 8 minutes, 10 minutes. I can select that, whatever I want to. So I may want the screen up longer and then go to a default. You can also set up the default page and the default buttons that you see at this home screen. So you got a little bit of option there, versatility. We can also set up our clock as needed, okay? This is your coach model type. You're not going to be changing any of that. And we also have diagnostics. This lets us see if there's any fault in this Firefly type system. This is a multiplex system, but it's if we have any faults, it'll show up here and you'll get details about that fault, such as communications fault between panels, or you have a short or some other issue. but that just gives you details as to what's going on with your system. So we didn't see any faults. Anytime you turn on a light, you're also going to see a green light here. I'll show you this. And as we turn on those, and then we go back to this, and we look at diagnostics, you'll see all the green lights here. So these are all the lights we actually had turned on. So it gives us a little idea of what's being turned on, what's going on. Helps for diagnostics if we have an issue, what's happening. So we're going to go back to the home page. So this is a mirror of what we saw there coming into the coach. The same type of panel. It just allows us to control things from back in this area. So in here we have our LG television. I'm going to switch places with you here for a second. And so I have a remote for the TV here for turn on the LG TV. I have an LG Blu-ray disc player that's up actually in this cabinet right here, so down below. So we've got a Blu-ray player here. And when I want to actually play a DVD into the TV, what I need to do is switch the input right here, and we'll go down to HDMI. So the HDMI is the input for the DVD player, and so you can see that right there. If I push that, if I had a DVD in there, it would load up and start playing. Being brand new, they're going to ask you for a little bit of setup information, but there's no disc, you can see. So that's how we do it. But this has a sound bar down below. Check this out. Your sound bar is a Bose sound bar. Your remote's half as big. Look how big that is. I thought that was kind of funny. It's not a little one like this, it's the big one. So you know you got a good system when you got the big remote. Let me turn this on. So if I'm watching local TV, and again I use the connector button to go back to my source and go to local TV, you'll need to scan the TV for all the channels in your local area. So when this goes to another area, Austin or Beaumont or any place else. So if I wanted this in through surround sound, I've got to turn this on. And then of course I've got to turn up my sound. Make sure I'm turned on here. I think I had it on.
Make medical products available with the provision of a level of oversight that helps ensure the safety and effectiveness of those medical products.
So when you're looking for a better sound,
I'd like to take a few minutes.
You're watching a DVD or satellite or cable TV, whatever you're watching, run it through the Bose system. You're going to get a lot more stereo effect. You're going to get a lot more features off of your sound. Again, this is the remote for the Blu-ray player right up top. And I wanted to show you one thing here. We have an antenna on this that can be controlled right here. And so when you press these buttons like this, you can actually cycle through the positions of the antenna. It's actually moving a motorized antenna up on the roof, and it's finding the channels. So you can do a search for all the channels in the local area, and it, based on the power it receives, it's spinning around and trying to find that higher power off the stations coming in. This is for local TV only. So, but they do give you a motorized antenna. The power on-off is actually the booster. If I turn this off, and my picture wouldn't come in real well on the TV, so I've got to have that on to actually power it up. So just remember, you got some antenna options here to let you dial in and focus in on a channel and pull in the power a lot better. It's our microwave here. Now, remember too that we have lithium batteries. We have an inverter that we can turn on. Let me show you where that's at, right up here. So when I want to turn on the inverter, I'm going to actually push in this button right here. So this is going to power up the inverter. And when I look at this, this is an inverter charger that's built in underneath the cabinetry. That's charging up the lithium batteries. And it says here that the batteries in are float charge already, and we're at 14 volts. So I'm going to scroll through the reading here, and you can see that the input is 12 volts. And the input also coming in for the charge is 118 volts at 60 hertz. So it gives us a lot of information about our power coming in and out of the inverter. I want to show one thing to you. Down here, down on the floor, is our breakers. But when you need to dry camp and you need power at your television, at your microwave, you can actually just turn on that inverter. And my general rule is only turn on the inverter if you need to use it. That way you're not having any excess draw if you're dry camping and not using those devices. But always remember that when you drive, you're charging up the lithium batteries back here off the alternator on the engine. So you're getting charged that way as well. So you're getting there, and then when you stop and plug in, you're charging up your house batteries, and you've got the solar power that can charge up the house batteries. So house power is very important to operate there. All right, so let's look back here, right here. I was going to show you Well, we actually have breakers here. So these are the household breakers, 120 volt breakers, just like we'd have at home. They're all labeled as what they go to. And so if we have one of those trip, we can actually reset it here. I have a GFI plug that's resettable as well. And then when I look over here, if I want to see more breakers, I'm actually going to dig these out and show it to you right here. So these are all DC aircraft style breakers. So I have lights and water pump and fans in here. So if these trip, they're going to pop out about 1/8 of an inch. So just come back and test them. They'll reset them if you have a problem with that. I have a couple more breakers inside of here, and you can see them right down below there. They're the large black breakers, and they have a red test button on them, so you can actually push that. And you're going to get a yellow lever that actually flips down, and that turns off. So when you want to reset these breakers, if you have problem starting a generator or have problem in your coach at all the 12 volt operational items, so just come in and pull up on the lever, and that'll snap it back into place and reset it. Okay. There's a couple of miscellaneous fuses that you see in here too. So, real-time lock. I have no idea what that is. Real-time lock. Okay, so just more places for fuses and breakers, just so you guys are aware of where that goes. When you're looking to set up the bed to make the bigger bed area, and this is going to fit down in these blocks here. There we go. You gotta have that in place. When you want to put the extension's behind the driver's seat. So if you pan over here, you can be able to see the boards that are here, the spacers. These two hardwood laminated pieces, they go in between here, and so they'll drop into place. You can actually remove this. This is our table. We can loosen that up. This will come off of here. That move away, and this will come off of here. So we can put our bed extension here, we can lay this bed down, and you can fill in the area with these top cushions, and this will all make one big bed area right here. So we just have to find a place that we can store the table and so forth for this articulating table that runs around. Just a conventional range top. We're going to go to where it says light, push it. And this is LP operation, so we want to make sure we have the air out of the line. So there we go. So I'm going to light up. I'm going to hold this for about 5 or 10 seconds until the sensor senses the flame. If I let off of it too quick like this, a lot of times it goes out because that's a safety valve. You want to light it. You don't want to have gas flowing when there's no actual flame. And I have to tell everybody, do not operate with the top down. I've had people do that before. So, and there's a warnings on it for doing that. So make sure this is turned off before we do anything else, okay? And this is all pretty much just storage, but I wanted to show you, there's the big owner's pack in here, so all the manuals are in here. All the owner's manuals, all the warranty cards. This is the basic owner's manual that you have in here. We actually have our sewer connection tool that we were looking at here. This thing that you see here is a backup handle, actually for the Fema, the Fiama awning outside, and that lets us manually crank it in and out in case something happened electrically and we couldn't run that in and out. But these are the sewer connections, and then we have our Mercedes chassis manual as well, and that'll have all the fuse locations and anything about the maintenance on the chassis as well. But there's a lot of individual manuals for all the equipment in here, all the fans, air conditioners, refrigerators, and those type of things. So lots of info to read. All right, and there's some chemical up in here too. There's actually no chemical in the tank right now. So when you before you trip, you're going to be putting some of this chemical down into the black tank there and prepping that tank ready for use. So you're going to put some chemical as stated on the bottle there and the directions. When we open this up in the bathroom, just push on the light. That's how you get the lights on in the shower bathroom area. And of course you have the water connections here, and we'll have to have the pump on. And this has a drain in the bottom for the shower, so it's an all-in-one. So when you want to take a shower, you'll be right in this area. You got a shower curtain over here on this side. Always a good idea to turn on the vent fan. That way when you're showering, you can vent out the steam, and works real well that way. But you can pull up on the handle here to make the shower work. So when you pull it, when you have the water running, just pull up on the little knob there. And you also have a shutoff on this shower. So if you're conserving water, get the temperature where you want it and shut off the valve until you need to use it. For your toilet, you have a ceramic bowl. So we can push down to add water. This is where you're going to be putting your toilet chemicals. And then so you're going to add a little bit of water just to kind of keep some water on that seal inside of there. It keeps that thing soft and pliable. But yeah, ceramic bowl, easy to clean up. Makes it real nice to use household chemicals if you need to. We have a smoke detector here. We also have down here on the bottom, we have a CO detector and LP detector. So if that's going off and you're hearing an alarm from this, you want to go outside and turn off the LP outside like I showed you at the safety switch. If you can't get to that switch in an emergency, you can always turn off the master power switch here. That will take that care of that too. That'll turn that off outside. So there we go. So I'm gonna turn off the hot water, but let's see what else we got here. I want to see what I missed. Nothing there. Just a little bit of storage. Okay. Back in place. So I've got USB chargers here too, right down here on the side. All right. And then over here I've got a USB charger, and then there's another GFI right here. So if you're tripping any outlets or anything needs to be reset, it's here and here. I don't believe there was one up here, but yeah, there's also one up here in this cabinet right there. So those are the three that I know about. Okay, so in this option, in this coach, they also have an inflatable bed. And my understanding is that this inflatable mattress goes in between the two seats up front, the passenger and the driver's seat. It goes up and it fits across there, so that makes another sleeping area up front when you want to have some guests over. But there's actually a pump in here to be able to pump that up. Mattress. So that's kind of nice to have. We also have our window shades here. So these window shades can go up and in the front, protect us from the sun. Keep our privacy. They go on the inside of the window, and normally there's magnets in here that would stick to the metal on the outside of the window, or the frame on the window, and then that's how they stay up. Also with the use of your visors up front. So nice heavy duty insulated shades. Back up here with this. Okay, let's talk about driving a little bit. I've got two key fobs here. So these are keyless key fobs here. I've got two more, so you have a ton of these. On this key here, you're going to have a manual pop out so that if your battery ever quit in the coach, you still needed to get in. There's a key lock on the door side, so I could pull that out and manually get into the coach. So I'm not locked out electrically, and that locks back in. So you just want these, this is a keyless start, so you just want these in the proximity of the area. There's also a place down here to put this back into the slot there to actually relearn the key fob to this system. But yeah, just hide a couple of keys. You've got 751 key for all the compartments outside, and then there's more of those keys, and then there's two more fobs. So a lot of keys right now. So we're just gonna step on the brake, and then you're gonna start it up. The glow plug symbol here is gonna go out. This is a diesel, and so with a diesel, we want to make sure that everything's initialized before it starts up, and it's going to do that automatically for you, but just pay attention as to what's going on over here. The way that Mercedes is setting up the new cab, the new coaches, the idea is to keep your eyes focused forward for safety. So a lot of controls that you see on the wheel here in the front are for the display in the cluster, and also for the radio and the nav controls over here on the right. So just a couple of things I can check over here. This is my diesel fill, so I'm full of diesel right now. And when I look over here, this is the Tack, and then the Speedo on this side. And you can see I have a warning that the door is open. So the slide door is open, okay? And my parking brake is on, but if I wanted to take that off, again, you just pull out on the parking knob over here on the left, and that releases the parking brake. I'm gonna put it back on. When you put it back on, you'll feel the brake pedal depress just a little bit. So I'm going to go look at one of these menus. I'm going to go to the home position on here, and I'm looking at the engine oil level now, but I'm going to go home, and I'm going to press it again. And then use this like your mouse on your iPad or on your phone. And I'm going to slide over so it's capacitive touch. And we're going to go to service. And I'm going to go down and look at the DEF fluid so I can look at that. Okay, so there we go. We got approximately about 4,000 mile range on that DEF fluid. So the DEF fluid is under the hood in the front. It's on the blue cap, and we want to make sure we have that filled before the trip, and you can check that on this little gauge that you see right here. And I'm going to go back, and I'm going to go down to the tires. Now, of course, we have to be driving for those sensors to register a little bit. After a few minutes, they'll register, and you'll be able to check the tire pressure as you're moving and as you drive. That's just the way the system is working. Assist Plus tell us what the service is for this on the engine. Oil level. So there we go. So we're checking the oil level, we're checking the DEF fluid, we're checking the air pressure, all from these gauges here. Particle filter, that's part of the cleaning system for the diesel. It's got a diesel particle filter, and we can just kind of look and see how clean that filter is. Chances are these usually have a regeneration system that cleans that filter automatically as you drive. So normally it'll stay in the 20, 30, and sometimes 40% range, but that's okay. So that looks good. We're going to go back to home position, and so I'm going to go to trip, and so I can look at my odometer, and I can scroll down and look at my fuel consumption, and there's a bunch of accessories, a bunch of features that we can look at on this. Miles per hour, I can see that one, and we can also look at our nav. We can see what direction, when that's tied in with the nav system on the dash. Radio, we can change the stations up and down with this, how we want to. Okay. And media, you can see if your Bluetooth is connected for your phone. Do all that through the radio. So we're going to go back to the home position. I want to go back here and show you a couple of features. We're going to go back to trip. And so when you're in gear, you actually put it in gear with this lever on the right hand side. So once you're in gear, you can manually step through the gears this way. And so I'm in drive 2. You can see it on the dash, 3, 4, 5. So I can hold it in a gear if I need to, or manually shift through those gears. So you got the paddle shifter on the side, or you can go back to drive automatic right there with drive. When you want to stop this rig and you put it in neutral, push in on it to go to park. Push in on the knob on the deal. When you go to reverse, you're going to see the backup camera here. And you can see we have a lot of different views because we have cameras left, right, and in the rear and in the front. We can get the bird's eye view if we want. And then once I back up and I start turning, you can actually see the guide there. So it's guiding me where I'm going to be turning. Real helpful when you're backing up a rig like this, but a nice high resolution camera to be able to see what's going on. And I can manually go through and shift these other views that I might have. It's just my personal preference on what you want to see, what you want to do. That helps you line the hitch if you're trying to do it. So a lot of nice things on this camera. One thing about this camera though is that when I go into drive, Mercedes does not enable this while I'm driving. This screen will actually go away once I'm in drive and I start driving. After so many seconds or a couple of minutes or so, it will go off and go back to the home screen, which would be the radio. Okay, so just keep that in mind, that it's not a full-time thing. But if I go back to home, I can do all of this. It's a touch screen, so I can go to the nav system and I can put in a route and just let it plan out the route for me, and I can take that, and I just doing it this way. Now I can do it two ways. This has voice command on it too. You can set that up where it would actually uses the voice and the language to do the selection. And sometimes if you say Mercedes, so I don't have it enabled right now, it will go to Mercedes and ask you, what do you want to do? So it's a feature you can do off the voice command. This is our local radio. Now I can control the radio features and everything on here with this right hand dial. So I got volume here. I can go to home page here, and then I can scroll over. So you can see I'm operating that. And one nice thing, I can look at the info here on the engine. So there's a lot more things I can see with the engine: torque, horsepower, oil pressure. I can also use consumption over here. And then I can go to the operator's manual if I need to look up something specific. And you can't be in motion when you do that, so we have to put it back in park. And now I can go into and do a quick search for something in the manual, like so I wanted to look at the oil or something like that. I could look at oil replacement now while we're doing fast the oil. So it's just a really nice tool to be able to have this available right here and not have to look up the manual. Everything scrolls. Look up the type of oil I need. Go back to home. There's other apps that you can do. So you can do Apple CarPlay, I believe, on these. You can also hook up your smartphone to this. Use this through the browser through your smartphone, so it's internet ready. We can hit settings. We can look at some of the settings on the coach, and so we can go look at the camera. The active brake assist. This has brake assist on it, so that if I come up on a vehicle too fast, and I've got the cruise control, it's going to take the cruise off and start applying the brake for me. So there's a lot of safety involved that has been designed into this new 2020. It's going to let us do a lot of these things. And some of these you actually have some control over that you can go through and change the sensitivity of that active brake assist. So you may have wanted on the earlier type of sensor. That's a radar looking down the road for these sensors. There's actually a camera in behind the windshield here, and it's looking down the road. So it's looking at the lines, it's looking at the speed, the speed signs. And this thing, if you start veering off the road, it will give you an alert at the steering wheel. It'll vibrate the steering wheel and start braking you. So it's going to wake you up when you go to sleep and have a problem like that. But just does a lot of things. We're not going through all the features today, but there's just a lot of. You can connect your phone to it, your Bluetooth, so you can have your music coming in. But the hands-free phone can be answered here on the steering wheel, and then you can control the volume. So everything's keeping your eyes forward. All the controls here on the wheel. You can actually tilt this wheel and you can telescope it to get it up where you nice and comfortable for you. So you can lock it back into place. Okay. So we're looking at the active. We're actually looking at the DEF fluid gauge here, and we're looking at the fuel gauge. So those are already there. You wouldn't need to go into the display or the diagnostics page here unless you wanted to look at the oil level and that sort of thing. So here we have a button. I can actually close that sliding door over there. So we need to get up and let that close. That's going to pull tight, so we want to make sure we're out of the way. Emergency flashers are here in the middle. And then we have manual control here over the air conditioner. It's not a dual control air conditioner, but you have fan control here, temperature here, and then the recirculate buttons here. We have defroster options here, top, bottom, mid-level, and then auto mode if we want to do that for heat and cold. Okay. And down there. And we also have up here, we have an SOS button. I'm not going to push that right now. That will contact Mercedes. If you have a question, you have an emergency that you need to contact them for any technical help or any kind of emergency. So that's similar to Onstar, but it's through Mercedes.
What can I do for you?
No, thank you.
Please repeat.
Map. So there's your voice activation there. So I just kind of punched the button there to get that working. But this is also, if you need service help over here, you can press that. We have light controls over here for the different map lights and things like that. And when we open and close the door, so you just have full control over that. You have a place for your shades. Most of these people pull around and you have storage above them. Most of the German cars will have this. You have storage up front here. There's also a place up here you can use the mini USBs. You can charge up your device up here. There's even a 12-volt port here. You can put an adapter in, but the small minis are there. And you also have down below here. So you also have some more charging port here. Lots of cup holders here in the front, left and right. Airbags left and right. We have the side curtain airbags as well. So a lot of new features with the safety that's been put into place. And washer wipers, you'll notice I'm going to turn on the wipers here over here on the left hand stick. That's my blinker control as well, but I'm going to push that in. Notice the full water distribution on the windshield. Very, very nice on those wipers, so you're gonna enjoy those. And I'm in auto for the lights here, so. Alrighty, well that's about it for the nickel tour, and we'll wrap it up here.